So, who is El and Ah? El is the feminine manifestation of God, and Ah is the masculine. But these are anthropomorphic terms that we put on the duality of God that runs through all of creation, that runs through all the world. Everything is an emanation of one of these two, and everything is an emanation of both. You can see El and Ah, you can see God in everything. Examples of this emanation can come in physical forms. For example, a mountain would be a symbolic physical representation of Ah, which is the convex, the outward. And its opposite, the opposite of a mountain, could be called a valley or a cavern, which is a cavity. And this is representative of the power of El, which is concave. You can see these in elemental forces like water and fire as opposites that eliminate each other. Fire, with its excited warmth, expression, the imposition of its own heat, is an element that is associated with Ah. Water, being malleable, being liquid, free-flowing, but voluminous, is of El. Literally everything in the universe corresponds to one of these two. But it's important to note that amongst all these things that we find of God in this world, everything is a combination. This is a spectrum, so it's not in terms of absolute. The terms El and Ah are absolute designations of those two aspects of God, kind of like yin and yang. Those are the two ends of the spectrum. But all of creation is included within the spectrum between the two. We literally live between the two. So no one thing except for El is 100% El, and no one thing except for Ah is 100% Ah. But things in the spectrum between the two can lean one way or the other. It's for this reason that you can observe it, like I said, in the physical world. It's right in front of our eyes. In fact, it is our eyes. It's our very eyes, in our very anatomy, you can see the evidence. Two eyes, two sides of the brain, two nostrils, two ears, two pair of lungs. This is what is meant, or had been meant, by us being created in the image of God. Male and female, this very primitive, very primal duality between biological life that's been there since the beginning in various forms, and sometimes a mix of the two, is a spectrum. This is another example. Male and female. Darkness and light. Once you see the presence of this duality, it's hard to unsee it. But God, in the truest sense, the union of these two of the duality, of this universal dichotomy, is what we call Elah, Elah, as a single word. Allah, as a single word, represents the union. It represents the reconciliation of God. It represents the summit of all of creation. The world and its natural processes, evolution, the expansion of new stars, new galaxies, just generally speaking, the physical operation of this world in every detail, down from microorganisms to star systems and everything in between. This is all moving toward that union, or I should say reunion, between El and Ah. In other words, this world is moving toward the reunification of El and Ah, the manifestation, the eventual manifestation of the union. How this relates to personal religion. It sounds like a stretch, but I assure you that it's not. But how this relates to personal religion is that the point of this is to bring in oneself, bring into one's soul, the reunion of El and Ah within ourselves, because both are present naturally within ourselves. Both aspects of God is present. Perhaps more one than the other, or a combination. But that same process of reunification, of creation, is happening here, just as it is out here, because we ourselves, as human beings, are just another manifestation of that same process, that sort of universal dance of El and Ah, this universal interaction. So the purpose of bringing ourselves to higher things, to higher modes of consciousness, is to elevate ourselves further and further until El and Ah become close enough within our span of awareness. And that is what essentially, to me, religion is the reunification of those disparate parts. And those things come in forms of love, of compassion, of all the good stuff you can think of. That is all, elementarily speaking, that is all of the union. So naturally, things like hatred, negative, destructive phenomena or attitude, those lack of virtues, or what we would call moral evil, that is the separation of those two. Because as a separation, it results in badness. These are all the aspirations of religion, of faith. And that's really the purpose of it. But it's important to note that while we can pursue in our lives the recognition of that union within ourselves and the bringing together of El and Ah within ourselves, while we can do that to the best of our awareness and to the height of our consciousness, we will not be able to obtain a complete union until, obviously, the expiration of our bodies, our death, when all of this will be reckoned and everything will be calculated. Because that's, our lives are riddled with falsehood, with illusion. This illusion of separation. Because in truth, El and Ah, at their most fundamental forms as the supreme vitality of everything. I'm playing with words here, but as the main thing, that separation that we bear witness to during our lives that results in death, that results in struggle, disease, that separation which we are witnessing here and results in our daily struggle to live, that's actually an illusion. The illusion that there is no resolution, the illusion that death is real, the illusion this world is an illusion. The reality of God is that everything is good and that everything is complete. But here we are.